Welcome ladies and gentlemen to another Warzone Season 6 video. In this video we're going to compare the MP5 to the new Season 6 AS VAL. After making the AS VAL versus RAM 7 video, I realised that the AS VAL is not the gun that you should be using for long range, and therefore it can be compared more to SMGs instead. So in this video we're going to compare it to the best SMG in the game, the MP5. This video is going to go in depth, giving you the stats for both of the weapons and comparing them to tell you which one is the best. But before we do that, we know the majority of you watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel yet. So if you want to see more weapon comparison videos like this one, or if you just want to see more Season 6 content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also go ahead and follow us over on Twitch. As I mentioned in the previous video, the AS VAL is definitely not the assault rifle you should be using at longer ranges, even with the longest barrel equipped, but it's definitely more than usable at close range. So let's take a look at the stats of it, comparing it to the MP5. On the screen now you'll see the stats for the MP5 along with the AS VAL, and you can see that the damage models are actually very similar for both of these guns. They both have really high damage profiles. And after searching through the stats of every weapon, this is the closest weapon I found to the AS VAL to actually compare it. And like I said, the AS VAL does do slightly more damage, but they are very similar. And the AS VAL also comes out on top in terms of rate of fire as well. Now in terms of time to kill, this looks very strange because the damage and the rate of fire on the MP5 is lower than the damage and the rate of fire on the AS VAL. Just remember, we are dealing in milliseconds here, so there is a bit of margin of error in terms of time to kill for both of these guns. At close and medium range, if you're playing at 60 FPS, you're going to notice that they both kill at the exact same frame, so you don't need to worry too much there. However, when it comes to longer distances, after 20 or so meters, the AS VAL is definitely the better weapon. Reload times and aim down sight times are very similar here. The only main standout thing is the fact that the AS VAL has a magazine capacity of 20 instead of the MP5's 30. At close range, both of these guns are very similar. However, at longer ranges, the AS VAL is definitely the better gun. So another thing you need to factor in is the movement speed of the weapon, and the MP5 has one of the fastest movement speeds inside the game. However, the AS VAL is not too far behind at 4.69 meters per second instead of the MP5's 4.85. Once again, this is not a massive difference, but it's definitely something you should consider when using each of these weapons. The base MP5 definitely has an advantage in terms of bullet velocity. If you do add on the longest barrel attachment on the AS VAL, this definitely makes it more in line and more comparable. Another massive thing we need to consider here is the recoil patterns to see which one of the weapons are actually easier to deal with. Before we do that, I'll show you the class setups for both the MP5 and the AS VAL that we use to test the recoil. So to make testing fair, we use the monolithic integral suppressor, the 5mm laser, the Merc foregrip, the 45 round mags, and sleight of hand. For the AS VAL, we use the Merc foregrip, the 5mm laser, the 30 round mag, sleight of hand, and the skeleton stock. We need to keep in mind that the AS VAL does have a built-in suppressor, and also this setup was built for hipfire and mobility. Before we look at the recoil chart, I do want to point out that the AS VAL only has a magazine capacity of 30, whereas the MP5 has a magazine capacity of 45. And with that extremely high rate of fire, and having tested this weapon for a little bit of time now, especially inside Plunder, I have not yet tested it in a battle royale game, you find yourself running out of ammo very quickly, and you can only take out one or maximum of 2 enemies at a time. So let's get back to taking a look at the recoil chart. So here we have the recoil for both the AS VAL and the MP5. The AS VAL is in blue, the MP5 is in green. At the very left we have the recoil with no attachments, and down the middle we have the recoil with attachments, and then on the very right, as always, we have the recoil controlled. So what we can see from this is that the AS VAL has a very vertical recoil, whereas the MP5 tends to group together. Now something that's quite important here is that the grouping of the MP5's recoil is what makes it really good at close range, because whether you control the recoil or not, you're actually going to get a very similar recoil pattern regardless. However, with the AS VAL is a completely different story. You do need to try and control the recoil to make sure your shots hit their target, and it's very important you do this with the AS VAL as you don't have a lot of bullets to play with. Now to answer the question, is the AS VAL better than the MP5 at close range? And my answer is going to have to be no in this case. Now it's very close, don't get me wrong. The small magazine size makes it really hard to recommend, and also especially if you're using this inside Warzone, which most of my videos are based around, you're going to be sharing ammo with an assault rifle if you are using one. And unless you've got Scavenger equipped, you're going to be finding yourself looting enemy bodies quite a lot just to make sure of your guns are full of ammo. Now the ASVAL is not completely useless. You can pair this with a sniper rifle or a marksman rifle in a game of solos or duos, but other than that, you're not going to be finding yourself taking out enemy squads with the ASVAL. So if you're looking for a temporary fun alternative to the MP5, you could definitely try out the ASVAL, but more than likely you could be finding yourself going back to the MP5 if you're going to play in tournaments or if you're being serious about Warzone. Let me know down in the comments if you like the ASVAL and if you've unlocked it yet, and if you would choose it over the MP5. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe because we're making a whole load of Season 6 content, and also go ahead and follow us over on Twitch. And finally, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave us a like, and thank you very much for watching.